Brands on Brands.
Hey, this week we're talking about what to do before you start a personal brand. Check it out.
In a world where content is king and your reputation is your brand, how do you build a brand that matters? Welcome to Brands on Brands, a home for those that think different and push their boundaries. This is where branding that matters lives. Now, here is your host, Brandon Birkmeyer.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Brands on Brands. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, your personal branding coach. And this week we are talking about building your personal brand, 3 things you should do before you even get started. And yes, I know before I jump into it, there's going to be people out there who ask the question, well, Brandon, don't you always have a reputation? Aren't you always branding yourself? And yes, you are. But before you start to position yourself in your business, in your area of expertise, in your industry, before you start taking that plunge, there are 3 things you can start doing today that are less intimidating, that will get you moving the right direction to actually honing what that personal brand is going to be. So that's what we're talking about today. But before you guys are ready to jump into that, what I do want to say is if you are interested in building your personal brand, in getting started, in just tackling one of the things that we're talking about today, reach out to me, give me a call. I am looking for 10 people to work with directly on their personal brands, even if it's for a one-off session. I do, if you have a roadblock, have a way you can get a hold of me to set up just one time, 1 hour or 30 minutes to work with me, get your questions answered, get you unstuck and keep moving. You can do that at brandsonbrands.com/consult. That's CONSULT, brandsonbrands.com/consult. Now let's get into the show.
Brands on Brands.
Hey. All right. So let's talk about things you should do before you start your personal brand. There are 3 things that I think you can start doing today that will prepare you down the road of getting this personal brand built. And those 3 things are very simple. They are listen, speak, and meet. And if you wanted to come up with a funny acronym that would help with that, you can call them the 3 C's. That would be curate, create, and connect. But I'm just going to use some regular regular talk today. Listen, speak, meet, right? So listen is the first, right? So before you get started and figuring out like, I need to build a website, I need to position myself in my market, I need to get a logo and build a podcast or a YouTube channel. Before you do all that stuff, what I want you to start doing is listening to the things that are interesting to you. I want you to find podcasts. I want you to find YouTube videos. I want you to find creators who are saying the things that you want to hear. And I don't mean the things that are entertaining. I mean the things in your industry that you want to talk about yourself. Find other people that are talking about those same things and listen to them. Curate the best of everything you can hear that are in the category that you want to talk about. And what you'll find is, number one, you'll be inspired, right? Because either you'll see how easy it is, or you'll have, based on just listening to those conversations, you'll have opinions. You'll have areas where you'd like to chime in and give a counterpoint to what you're hearing, or you'd like to agree with what you're hearing and give your own examples. So start by listening, because listening inspires perspective, right? When you hear other people talking about the things that you're passionate about, it inspires you to have an opinion. And becoming aware that you even have these opinions is one of the first steps that is important before you ever start creating your personal brand in a way that is intentional, right? So pick, like I said, some blogs, some podcasts, some creators out there that you respect, write them down, subscribe, and start listening. Make a habit of it. That every day you pick a little time, whether it's during your drive or during your workout, where you are listening to the people that are leaders in your space. And if you have trouble finding who those might be, do a simple search. What I would do is start on 3 different platforms. I would start with one, go to Amazon and look up the number 1 books in your category. the ones that are the most popular, that have the most reviews, that are trending, that are thought leadership in your space. Look at who those authors are that wrote those books and go to those authors' websites. See if those authors have other channels that you can follow. So read the books that they're writing and then see if they have a YouTube channel, see if they have a website, see if they have a blog, and read a few things here and there that they are writing, that they are creating, so that you can start to immerse yourself in what content it looks like in your space. The second thing, when you're still there listening, you're still in that piece of the puzzle, look for people who are podcasting. Like books, only so many people write books, right? But a lot of people are starting to create podcasts. So I would get out there and go to your podcast provider and type in the keyword that you are interested in looking at. And for me, like I typed in the word marketing, I typed in the word branding, I typed in the word startup, I typed in the word entrepreneurs. And I use that to help serve me content for people who created shows around this content. What's great about that, instead of finding the one-off article or episode about something, you're finding an entire show about all that content that you are interested in. And you can pick and choose the episodes within that show that are interesting to you. And again, once you've found someone's show, go to their website and find out if there's other things they create as well. Did they also write a book? Do they have a course? Did they do a free video that you can watch? What are they talking about? How do they describe the things that are interesting to you? And see if there's something that inspires you to be thinking about things differently, that inspire perspective. And then lastly, I would go to the Google search and to YouTube search and type in the same thing. Type in your categories and see what pops up. What are the most trending, popular articles that pop up in that space? And become someone who is immersed in their category. Because right now you're at the learning phase. You want to understand what is being said, what is being taught, and be a sponge for all that content. Now, what I don't want you to do is to go to social media and start scrolling social media all day and seeing what random posts are popping up from all the different people, right? That's a whole different thing. It's a rabbit's hole that's going to suck you down and waste your time. I want you to actually look at where people have created content, that they have taken the time to write full content, to categorize things and to put it in a way that is easy to listen to and understand. You're not going to get that in these quick clip 1 minute bursts of information, right? Those are highlights. They're not actual deep dive pieces of content. And it doesn't need to be a full, 300-page chapter book or whatever else, but it does have to be something that's more than the 15 words that's a quote that is inspiring, right? It has to be more than that. It has to be something that has some thought put into what their perspective is. So I want you to be seeing how other people formulate perspective, and then you can come up with how you agree or disagree with that and create your own, right? So if that's phase one is listening and curating. Phase two is speak. What I want you to do is get out there and react. I want you to have your own perspective. I want you to create ideas and share how you feel. And the secret to this is to do it privately. Create something that you write, like a document, and write in that document. Write your reactions to the things you're hearing, but do not share them. Do not post them publicly. Do not post your feelings on social media. Create content that is a reaction or perspective and save it somewhere and title it, and then create it again and create it again. Create reactions to everything you are listening to. And if it inspires your own idea that you want to share a concept for, share it. Or just a feeling you have, share it. But write it down, but do not put it out there into the world. Keep it private on your computer. This is going to be something you can pull from later when you're ready. But right now, this is just for you to get in the habit of creating perspective and putting it down on paper, right? The way that I would suggest you do that, you could write. You could also capture it on video, record a video to a camera. But for me, what I found easy was sometimes writing, but a lot of the time was actually turning on the microphone of a podcast and recording something. I could even ask myself a question and answer it, right? You can do that. You can just start with an idea, think of 3 things you want to say about that idea, and then start talking about that. Get your perspective out of your head. You have so much knowledge inside of you, and hopefully some feelings about that knowledge that you can share with people, that getting it out of you is the first step, because what you'll realize is after you do this over and over and over again, you'll start to get into the habit of getting better at honing how you describe things, how you explain, how you think, how you feel, and hopefully how to help other people move through some kind of process, right? If you are educating in a space, hopefully you are within this practice getting better at teaching. Like that's what people a lot of time want to do, is learn from you. So you have to get into the practice of teaching to get good at that. And I'm not talking about building curriculum. That's a whole other class of study. I'm just saying using your voice in a way that helps people pick up one piece of knowledge from you at a time. And that practice of speaking was going to help you solidify what you're all about. See, what I think a mistake is a lot of us make when we get started is we're trying to strategize in our head who we are. We're trying to understand, like on paper, all of our complicated nuances of our personality and identity, and trying to hone it down to a niche, which is what confuses a lot of people, because niching down is a tough decision that is not going to be made in a vacuum, in a box without any inputs in it. What you need to do is sit down, continue to create content and share your perspective in a way that helps you over time start to move closer and closer to what you're about and who you are. And it'll come out of you because it's your perspective you're sharing already. And over time, that becomes thematic. You start to say things over and over and over again that become a pattern that are really the truth about who you are. And when you speak your truth every week, you can't help but really start to formulate around a concept of this is what I believe. And those beliefs are what shape your identity. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is, if you're out there creating perspective, bring other people into a conversation. Don't be afraid to create a show that you may never distribute, that you may never publish, but have an identity and say this, at the end of the day, or an idea, I mean to say, create an idea and say, you know what I want to talk about? This general topic. And I want to talk about with these types of people, and invite people in to talk about that topic. And if they're an expert in something, invite them on to talk about their expertise. And you don't even have to have the show named. It's better if you do. But if you don't, come up with a tentative name that you can use. Invite people on, bring them on a Zoom call where you interview them, ask them questions, get into that habit, because in those conversations, you'll find some interesting concepts too that you can, in real life, in real time, react to and share your perspective in that way. And this is all going to be creating tools for you to use in the future. It's going to be sharpening your axe as a content creator and as someone who needs to figure out, how do I tell people what I do and who I am? Well, you're doing that just through conversation. It's the easiest, most natural thing we can do as humans, is to have a conversation with another person, or to share how we feel about something that's right in front of us. So what I'm saying is use those natural tools to start to hone and look back at later what your identity is. You can it's easy to look at things that you've created over time and say, well, it looks like I've said a lot about this kind of thing. Like this, is something that I continue to be passionate about. So that's the second phase, speaking as much as possible, creating content in the way that is natural to you. So listen, speak, and then lastly, meet. And meet is all about people. It's about connection. I want you to get out there and meet people that are in your industry, that are talking about the things you want to talk about, and get to know the other people's perspectives, right? And not just by listening, but by actually interacting with them. So this connects to the speaking part, but I actually want you to put yourself in positions to meet people, because a lot of the times just trying to reach out to someone via email who's never met you before is difficult. But if you go to places where people are, whether it's your local networking group or your local co-working space or an event in your neighborhood, or by seeking out industry events in your industry, or industry events, going to them, just pick one big one for the year, show up with your heart and your eyes and your ears open, listen to speakers, get to know people in the audience. And if you have a chance to speak to some of the speakers, go and talk to them. And in those conversations, you will start to also come up with your own perspectives. And the bonus of that is, well, you being in person starts to grow your relationships with people who then could come on to your show and be part of the conversation. But there's nothing more important than you meeting those people. But it starts with the listening and speaking, and then turns into this meeting part, because when you start to show up, you want to have something to say. And usually it has to do with your ideas and your perspectives on things that are common topics of conversation in your field. So that's the step 3. And this is all before you ever create a website or start a business or whatever else. You can do this on the side. Sure, if you have something to sell, do it. But what I'm saying is you don't need any of that. Just while you are having this idea that you want to move towards being a reputation, not a resume, or being a business that is your own instead of employed by someone else, or starting some kind of side business that brings in additional income or a side hustle, right? Before you do any of that, you can start with these simple steps. Listen to as much as possible in your industry, speak on your perspectives and the things that you would do different, and meet all the people that have influence in your space. Meet them. Be a part of that circle, because guess what? Then when you start to turn the page and say, now I'm ready to build these things that are going to help me with my business and my content, and you start to publish that and get reactions and develop your audience and your potential customers, what you'll find is you'll have now a community of support. You'll have a body of work to choose from, and you'll have ideas that are naturally flowing out of you without all the blocks that would get in your way, things that would be like your imposter syndrome about just getting started, or the roadmaps of not knowing what to do next because you haven't learned from the people who've been doing all that already, or just the simple doors you might need opened that now you can have open because you've met the people who might have the key, as opposed to you having zero network. These are the steps that I think might help anyone out there right before they start their personal brand. Listen, speak, and meet. Speak your truth, listen to all the stuff in your industry, and meet as many people as possible. That's what I got for you guys today. I hope that was helpful. And again, if you want to reach out to me and spend one-on-one time with me for a quick 30 or 60 minutes, I'm happy to work with you. Reach out at brandsonbrands.com/consult, and I'd be happy to hear from you. Otherwise, have a great week, and I'll catch you guys next time.
You've just taken your marketing knowledge to another level with this episode of Brands on Brands. But we have plenty more ways to help you build a brand that matters. Head over to brandsonbrands.com for resources, as well as access to our blogs, videos, and exclusive coaching sessions with your host. Be sure to visit brandsonbrands.com